Good morning and welcome to the AfterBuzz with your host, Brandon Coates.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. As you guys know, we have corporate in town. We just got done chatting with them, and but no, really good talking to them. But seeing them come into town and getting to see them face to face. So we apologize for the delay in getting the AfterBuzz on, but we're here! Yay! We do have just a few things to go over. We'll keep this one relatively short because Scott and I got a ton of work we got to do. So we'll keep this one to about 10-15 minutes. So if you do have any questions or anything that you guys want to bring up, just go ahead and fire it away in the chat there. But a few of the things that I was going to mention, one was which, we kind of mentioned this on the air today, was the Jim Carrey documentary on Netflix called Jim and Andy. It's about his time when he was Andy Kaufman and they were filming Man on the Moon.
Ah.
And one of the things that stood out, and it was one of those things that at first it didn't really stick out to me, but after I slept on it, the next day when I woke up and I was thinking about it. So Andy Kaufman and Jerry the King Lawler, they were in on their jokes, right?
Right.
So like the whole, wrestling and stuff like that. And during this documentary, they're portraying it like Jim Carrey is just a complete a-hole to Jerry the King Lawler. Like he's constantly messing with him nonstop. And it's showing Jerry getting upset. And at one point he actually attacks Jim Carrey. But it doesn't really show what happens. And suddenly like Jim Carrey's in an ambulance and they're hauling him away. And Jim Carrey had, I believe he was the one that got the cameraman and the film crew to film this, right?
Okay.
During the making of Man on the Moon, I think he was playing an Andy Kaufman type prank for this. Because when you really start to look at everything that happened with him and Jerry the King Lawler, there was no reason for it. Because Jerry even says on camera during the documentary, he says, well, me and Andy were in on the jokes together, not like this asshole who's just screwing with me. And so it really comes out. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, I think Jim Carrey's trying to pull an Andy Kaufman on us in regards to the documentary. Like he's trying to portray it like they were actually at odds constantly when it gets to the point, that how they redid that interview with David Letterman where you have Jerry the King Lawler and you had Andy Kaufman and Jerry gets up and he slaps him and Andy Kaufman's got the neck brace on. Yeah. So they reenacted that for the movie. And in the documentary, Jim Carrey even mentions, he's like, he leaned over right before they said action and he kind of whispered in Jerry's ear, I want you to really hit me. Because originally they were going to cut the scene away and they were going to have him
like stunt?
Yeah, they were going to have like another guy come in and take the slap, or they were going to cut to a different angle so you couldn't see that he wasn't actually hitting him. But Jim Carrey leaned over and he said, really hit me. And he does, although when you watch it, he's got the neck brace on. So for the most part, Jerry hits like right here on the neck brace. So I'm calling BS on the whole Jim Carrey and Jerry the King Lawler were at odds. I think it was Jim Carrey really being Andy Kaufman in the sense that he's trying to make it seem in this documentary that he and Jerry the King Lawler were at odds when really they were not. But yeah, so check it out. It's on Netflix. It's a great documentary, by the way.
That's meta, dude. That like folds back in on it.
Dude, right? Let me see here. So God, was that Monday? I had to go get blood work done. Yeah, I think it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. So I had to go, so I was fasting during the show and I had to go get blood work done. And so we had our meeting on Monday and Buzz asked me if it's because I'm getting married and my girlfriend's Catholic church requires a blood test to make sure that we're not related. I can assure you that's not the case. I
feel pretty sure that you guys are not related.
This thing, yeah, that's the thing is that if there's anybody on the planet that there's nowhere near like any relation to, it's going to be me and her. Like I am as white can be, and she was born in Juarez, and like her ancestors are from Spain. Like it's not even close. So like all of a sudden this thing got legs of its own, to where like people started to believe it. Where Joanna actually looked at me and she was like, "You getting the blood work done? Good for you, Brandon." And I'm like, "No, Joanna, it's not real. Like this isn't really happening." But anyway, so that was just something that kind of it kind of got legs of its own, and I can confirm that is not the reason for me getting blood work done on Monday. And by the way, fasting sucks.
Fuck fasting.
Oy. And then another thing that kept getting brought up today, and it got brought up in the chat, is somebody had mentioned that Duke is on like every single commercial, and he must get paid a shit ton of money because he's on every commercial. It doesn't work that way. And then we had other people saying, well, of course they get paid for the commercials. Doesn't work that way either.
Nope.
And there are other people saying that, they must do it for free. It doesn't work that way either. This is actually a really complex thing because it really depends on who you're dealing with. So I was a production director when I was in Florida, which meant my job was to produce and voice commercials. The same thing with Duke. His job right now, production director, to voice and produce commercials.
Yeah, each station has a guy that basically that's his gig.
Exactly. And so, and there are people in the building who also voice and produce commercials for us. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. And it kind of depends on how much of a douchebag you might be dealing with in regards to air talent. Like there were people I worked with in Florida. They refused to voice anything unless they were getting paid for it. Which I mean, you have to be a real big fucking star to get that. I'm talking like Howard Stern-esque in order to just to the point where I'm not voicing this spot unless I get paid for it. And that's that's very few and far between that happens. I mean, we are syndicated, but some of the larger syndicated morning shows might get that. But Buzz will still read stuff, and it really comes down to, for the most part, whether or not you're using your title or who you are. Like I can voice a spot for somebody, and if I'm not saying this is Brandon from the Buzz Adams Morning Show, then I'm probably not going to get paid for that. Because here's the thing is, when we get local businesses, we have to produce those here in our building. And, you guys already said it, Duke's on almost every commercial. That is horrible in regards to, providing something to the client. There was a time in Florida where I was doing nights, and I was the production director. And it got to the point where I had a talk break that was me, and then it went into 4 straight commercials that were all me, and that was because we were limited on voices in the building, and so that's why we need to kind of try to grab as many people as possible. And it's not as easy as a lot of people think to just go voice a spot. Most people are like, oh, you grab a piece of paper and you read it, and then when you actually have them try to do that, it comes off like this, and it's really awkward sounding, and it's really bad, it's awful, and it just sounds like shit.
Do you like burritos? Well, you should come down to Burrito Hut.
Yeah, and that's exactly where everything goes south. So anyway, so I mean it's pretty complex. It kind of depends on the person. And like for instance, Buzz, he'll voice things that he won't get paid for. I'll voice things that I'm not getting paid for, but we will also voice things that we do get paid for. And those are actual endorsements. Like somebody just typed into the chat, Metro PCS. Perfect example. I'm using my name, and somebody even on Instagram called me out where they were like, oh, but Brandon doesn't even have Metro PCS. Bullshit. This is my Metro PCS phone right fucking here. It's a Samsung Galaxy S8, and it's the shit. Like the coverage is amazing. The phone is great. And that's why I'm endorsing them, is that, it's Metro PCS. Hey, it's wireless. Figured it out. See what I did there? I don't have the disclaimer in front of me. I should have that.
You should.
But
now he gets to charge him for that.
Exactly. I'm going to send this to the sales team, and they're going to have to send him a bill.
Yep.
But
it's a difference between just, look, we need a voice for a spot, or, hey, this is an actual endorsement.
You're putting your name behind this.
That's what it is.
Like, you're saying this is a good product. Now, there are certain things that I would refuse to put my voice on. Ashley Madison, for one. They tried to advertise with us in Florida. and I told the sales team, I'm not doing that. Like, I will not be a part of a website that's all about cheating. Like, that's bullshit. I'm not going to do it. And they fought me tooth and nail, where they were like, well, no, this is money. We're going to take it. I'm like, how much of fucking whores are you that you're going to take this money? Like, no, I'm not doing this. I go, if you want to have somebody else do it, by all means, go right ahead. I'm not doing this commercial. And eventually I didn't have to do it. But yeah, so anyway, so that was another one. And so real quick here, we're going to spend maybe a few more minutes on the AfterBuzz. So if you do have any questions or anything, go ahead and put it into the chat here. Yeah, David says advertising on the AfterBuzz. We're working on that. Ivan says, what if they pay you $1 million? No, if I don't believe in it, I'm not going to take the money. Although I did joke about that at one point. Like my girlfriend and I, like we were driving around, like looking at houses and stuff. And we would just see these like huge, gigantic mansions and shit. Like we were like, do you ever just go to Zillow and look at like the super expensive houses in the area? And like you just kind of like, it's almost like what would I do if I won the lottery kind of a thing. And so then I told my girlfriend, I was like, you know what? I go, for 2018, I'm going to take every fucking endorsement I can. I'm going to whore myself out. If Fen becomes a thing again, and and they don't even have to have changed the product. It could be the same thing that was killing people. I'd be like, this is Brandon from the Buzz Adams Morning Show promoting Fen. Like, as long as they pay me a shit ton of money, I'm good to go. But obviously, it's, joking. Because no, if I don't truly believe in it or use it or for whatever, like, and especially something like Ashley Madison, not a chance in hell. Well, I'm not touching it.
You can't do that either. Like that, you do have to be careful about what you endorse because, I mean, your name is on that in the community, and now people are going to be like, yeah, look, he's got a girlfriend, but he's also advertising for Ashley Madison. So now you've got this whole. Mm-hmm. You can't just endorse anything.
No, and Green says, scroll up a little bit. Read what my father-in-law did for Thanksgiving. There we go. I know we are past Thanksgiving, but I just wanted to share a story. A couple of years back when my father-in-law decided to try out cooking a turkey with a vented beer can inside that he had heard about. The thing is, he put it inside the deep fryer. I got a feeling it blew up.
I would imagine.
There you go. And that was one thing we were going to kind of talk about last week was Thanksgiving stories. There was one that I had, and it was really I remember this was like my first Thanksgiving where after dinner with my family, I went out with my friends. Because before, I think I was maybe 19 or 20. I should technically say I was 21 because I was drinking, but I wasn't. Like, I'm not going to lie about it.
What would you endorse drinking when if they were like, hey, Brandon,
I got to like it. If it's not a good product, I'm not endorsing it. Like, if it's a shit product, I'm not endorsing it.
You're not going to be like Taco or something like that. You're going to hold out for like...
No, if Jameson Irish Whiskey wants to endorse me again,
yeah, boy.
Hell fucking yeah. But it was one of those. I had a buddy of mine, and he was notorious for burping like loud, and so we would have. There you go. We would have at the coast of Oregon. There's a sea lion aquarium, and in order to get them to get fed, they would teach the sea lions to go like that, and they would bark, and so they would slap their fin, and then they would belch. Although it wasn't a belch, it was just whatever sound they make. And so he did that, and he would always tap his chest, and more often than not he would throw up when he did it. And he was always, oh, it's just foam. Don't worry, it's just foam. And he usually was. Like there was one time when he did it, we were sitting in a buddy's dining room who had just moved into the apartment, so we were sitting on the floor and speakers. That's it. And my buddy's sitting there, and he's sitting on a speaker, and he goes, and it just this foam just comes like flying out of his mouth. And it lands right where we're playing a drinking game, but it doesn't land on anything except the carpet. And he just takes his foot and he goes, it's just foam, it's okay. And he just starts like wiping it in with his foot. So anyway, the same guy, we're standing out on the balcony. We're up on the third floor of this apartment complex. Same complex, different apartment, by the way. And he was sitting there and he goes to do this thing. And all of a sudden, like you could tell, like when he hit it the second time, like facial expression changed, like uh-oh. And he just, and this wasn't just foam. I mean, he full on just like routes right over the edge. Come to find out the next morning, he had puked all over the person that lived on the first floor, had a kid. Oh. Puked all over their toys. There was like those little plastic cars and stuff, and it just everywhere. They even came up. Because I mean, we had a few people in this apartment. I mean, there was probably a good 10 to 15 of us, maybe. And yeah, so they even came up the next day to be like, "So did somebody get sick last night?" Because I mean, it was turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberries. It was everything that wasn't digested yet. This was still Thanksgiving night, so I mean, it still came up looking pretty.
I'm just imagining walking out to say, "Oh, kids' toys," and like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and then there was a couple other a couple of things that like growing up, we always had kind of a different Thanksgiving where my aunt, she was kind of a hippie. So we would always have the basics, your turkey, your mashed potatoes, your cranberry, your stuffing, all that stuff. But she would always, and she actually owned a restaurant. So we always had amazing Thanksgiving because she would bring these different dishes that were just fucking bomb. Another thing we would always do is for that weekend, we would go head to the coast of Oregon. We would spend the weekend over at the coast. And then there's another funny story I had. So my cousin and I, he's 3 years older than I am. And he's slightly smaller than I am, shorter and skinnier. And at the time, my aunt was married to this kind of big black dude who was like a correctional officer at a like a juvenile correctional facility or whatever. He's a big dude. And he asked us, he was like, "Hey, we're going to play some Thanksgiving football. Do you guys want to show up?" So my cousin and I were like, "Hell yeah, man, let's do this." So we show up, these two scrawny ass white guys. At the time, I was probably 30 pounds light. They weighed me at the doctor. I'm 200 pounds, dude.
You're 200 pounds?
2 bills. Pure muscle, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
I'm 300 pounds. Not a muscle to be found.
So we show up, and we're like these two scrawny little, like my sister's there, like these scrawny little white guys show up, and then she's just like fucking, like there's one guy who played in the NFL there, and the other guy's like at least played like college or something, and like they're just these fucking hulking men, and it was to the point there was more than 22 guys there. We were playing like 15 on 15 football. Like rather than being like, "Oh, let's split this up and we'll play like 7 on 7 here, maybe 8 on 8 over here." No. It was like 15 on 15. And my cousin and I were so determined to prove that we can play with the big boys. Like, these are the grown men. Like, yeah, we can do this. So I think, God, I had to have been like 18 maybe. I might have still been in high school. And so we would go back to the huddle, and we'd be standing there, and the guy would, like, we were on the team with the guy that had the NFL player on it. So he was the one running the team. He's like, "You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this." And he would always get to the end with my cousin and I and be like, "You two go deep." And so that was always what we did. So my cousin and I would go, line up on the line of scrimmage. They'd snap the ball, and me and my cousin hauling ass out there. We turn up, nobody's around us. By the way, the two white guys are all the fuck alone, like standing in the end zone. Ball's not coming anywhere near. I don't think the ball got thrown within 15 yards of us the entire day. But for 2 hours straight, we lined up on the line of scrimmage and just ran our asses off. And then when the ball didn't get thrown to us, we walked back, and then we run our ass off, and then we walk back, and so on and so forth. And that's how that one Thanksgiving went. But other than that, I mean, that's really all I got for this AfterBuzz. We apologize again for being late, but I do want to thank corporate for coming in. It was a good meeting, getting to sit down and actually meet and sit and talk to them face to face.
So when's your raise kick in?
Fuck, I'm not getting a raise. You're kidding me, dude. But yeah, so Scott, you got anything?
Try not to masturbate in front of women who don't like it. Apparently, it's not good for your career.
Well, and touching women, like, fuck, dude.
Don't do it.
Am I in a different generation where it was totally cool to just start pinching asses and grabbing
I don't know where that came from. I thought that was I just thought that was like a Hollywood thing that they do in the movies that doesn't really happen in real life.
But apparently it does.
Look
at Mad Men. I mean, wasn't that kind of the whole purpose of the show?
Yeah, I figured that's when it happened then, but nowadays, it's 2017, we don't do that anymore. And then, it turns out, no, we very much do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's anybody who wants to be pinched or ogled, I'm happy to help you, but, I'm not going to do that on my own. That would be rude.
Yeah. So anyway, so there you go. On that note, if you guys have anything else, I would type within the next 10 seconds because otherwise Scott and I are going to wrap this thing up. I think we've pretty much covered it all, right, Scott?
Really all there is to cover. So,
Ghost says we need another Brandon and Scott Adventures in El Paso live stream. We'd like to do that. We just need to make sure that the signal, for some reason when we're trying to broadcast it on YouTube, it's not, even Facebook when we were out at the parade wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
But if you guys like doing that, if you guys like watching it, hell yeah, we'll
Yeah,
do
everybody
that
seemed
more.
to love the fact that we were on the road. It like blew everybody's minds.
Well, we're supposed to go back to Glitch like next week at some point. So maybe Scott and I will plan that for Wednesday again, and we'll kind of do the same thing where we, we just live stream from the car.
Glitch is awesome, by the way. You guys ought to go check that out.
Glitch is the shit. It's super cool.
So I would totally endorse Glitch.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I will gladly put my name on, because Glitch is sweet. If you guys haven't been out there, I highly suggest doing it. So on that note, have yourselves a great Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, and then of course AfterBuzz next week at earlier. I was gonna say same time, but it'll be at the regular time next week.